Hey YouTube, this is Ben Gessel. How's it going? It did feel good to make that video I just made, and um, there's a number of reasons why. But I really am very familiar with, again, knowing people that are less intelligent than I am regarding those things that I really excel at. um, Not only less intelligent, but um, I don't want to say conventional ways of thinking, but people that you just are less eccentric and more practical. Most people I've known that are of average or higher intelligence are not especially odd in the way I am. I don't know if I want to use the word odd necessarily, but and by the way, I'm charging at my phone right now, so in case you're wondering why the camera is a little different than it usually is, that's why. Um, yeah, just very few people that I've known that are like myself. And so, um, on that note, you know, I spent a long time, again, if you've seen some of my other videos, you'll hear this, as well. I spent a long time in a singles ward, one in particular, and it was um, not the greatest experience, not a very good experience overall. And overall. But despite that, I'm still alive. I'm still, since then, being in that kind of thing, I'm often more inclined to, how do I put this? Uh, I'm trying to think of how to put this. Um, because of, again, prior life experiences socially, I guess you could say, um, sorry, eating a popsicle here. um, I can kind of cut to the chase with some people if they're being unpleasant in some respect. I can. Um, Dating situations are different. Dating is different. You're getting to know the person. You don't want to be. I don't know. It's a whole different ballgame. But with other kinds of relationships, at least a professional kind of relationship, or well, I'm not even sure if I would. If I'm talking with somebody who I immediately sense that they're misunderstanding something about me. It isn't always that very moment where I feel like I need to correct them. But at some point in the future, depending on the situation, yeah, I can be very have it in me now. The awareness of myself and the awareness of the kind of situation that would present itself where I can be very, very direct with other people. And basically something along the lines of, it's fine if you misunderstood me. It's fine if you have whatever reservations about me or anything you don't want to do business anymore or whatever. That's okay. What I do have a problem with though is if you actually do have, if there's actually a misunderstanding or if there's something in my behavior or character or something that you see that you don't you think is really amiss that actually isn't there, or that you're misunderstanding. That kind of conversation I've rarely had, but you know, it could come up. And if we're talking about an adult who is north of 30 or 40, all depending, I suppose, but sorry, folks, this is really good popsicle. It's a Outshine Grape popsicle, by the way. Something more pleasant here, talking about all the serious stuff. But yeah, I mean, look, having mild Asperger's syndrome is something that's a great thing, but it's also a very frustrating thing to have. But it explains a lot of life experiences and things. But when somebody just doesn't understand what the devil is going on with me, and so they decide it's a good idea just to make a rash judgment or something, those people are dime a dozen. I really don't want to work with them. I mean, in all honesty, my heart of hearts, if somebody is going to just make rash judgments about people, or they're going to what's interesting is that you have people that if they see something in you that really isn't there, or they see something in you that reminded them of someone else they didn't like, or they had a very bad experience with. This could be any kind of relationship you have. And so because whatever it is they see in you that isn't so good, or they misunderstand you, then they just want to treat you like crap. That kind of way of acting, I have no tolerance for. Because I know how easy it is mentally to sometimes think that way, and I don't do that. It's also very immature, in my opinion, or it's less mature. And it's a funny way of thinking. Types of people. Well, there are types of people, I suppose, but even within take your New Jersey stereotypes, Italian American New Jersey guys. Even with those guys, man, I mean, like, it's talking about millions of, I don't know, well, I'm talking about a lot of people, hundreds of thousands of people. You can get your Ralph Macchios, and you can get your Joe Rogans, and everybody else. It's not just like they're not just mafia guys. Or, I've always understood that when a person thinks in terms of, and include myself, when we think in terms of, when we let me start with this. How is it that a person can accurately understand someone else's character via what they say in external behaviors and actions? I'm just for a second going to take an example here of something I saw on YouTube a while back that was a pretty interesting video. So there's a gentleman I've been following for a while, Shay, can't remember his last name, but an African-American guy in Detroit. He makes a lot of videos about remodeling houses and fixing them up and all kinds of house stuff. And so he hired a guy to do some work on a house, and the guy turned out to be a druggie or something. So he's having this conversation with this guy. So how was it that Shay knew that this guy was nuts? Because this is a professional relationship. He didn't know him personally. He just trusted him. He just said enough to, at least to do some work on the house initially, but he was taken advantage of. So how was it that Shay knew this guy was nuts? Well, it was kind of pretty obvious if you see the video. The guy was not answering any of his questions, and he was looking off in the distance, all the time, and he kept repeating himself, and he was not really mentally with it. So Shane knew that he was out to lunch and he wanted his stuff back, and I don't know how it all ended up really, but so that's a more obvious example of somebody who's not really all there, or a situation where you know that person can't be trusted with money, right? Let's take a trickier example here. Trickier example. Let's say that you have a situation where, and I'm just talking about YouTube stuff. Probably don't want to get too personal here, but in a way, but there's another gentleman who I won't mention who talked about on YouTube how he broke up with his girlfriend. Basically, that she was at fault. And like I say, I really don't want to mention this guy's YouTube channel because he was gutsy enough to put it on there, something like that online in the first place anyway. He was crying. So if you guys are curious who this is, I don't know. He was pretty public about it, so you can probably ask me and who it was, and I'll probably tell you. Because at least he put it online. But this is a while back, and this gentleman was a really funny guy. He's really high energy. Yeah, he was in tears, and he talked about how he was breaking up with his girlfriend or something, and it really hurt him. And there was a lot more to it than that. But really, regarding romances and girlfriends and marriage and stuff, and are you being faithful to your person that you're whatever? Regarding that whole thing, and I'm going to turn this camera here a little bit. So, I mean, this is one of the most emotional things that you could possibly talk about. And the kind of misunderstandings that can go on in a marriage are endless. Divorces and So that's why I'm talking about, like, gosh, man, alive, if you really want to be married to somebody that's on the same page as you, sheesh. I mean, like, so many people don't have the foggiest notion of what, I don't know. Anyway, you think somebody's wonderful, and they think you're pretty cool. You guys are girlfriend, boyfriend, or married for whatever reasons and whatever things, and then at some point you find out that that person is not who they said they were, or they are cheating on you the whole time, or they were whatever. You know, like this. There's so many things about this whole arena of life that I think I've not been exposed to, thankfully. And there are many, I think, spirits in heaven that are probably happy about this situation, or at least or very minimal experiences I've had. Very minimal. So, like, this is, at what point does someone realize something's up? Is it, and is it when they're dating, or is it when they're married? Because it's an emotional thing. It's something you just feel. If you can't feel when something feels right or wrong about another person, I don't know. This is something that is worth thinking about. How do you feel around certain kinds of people? If you feel good, you feel right, then yeah. If it feels funky or weird, the more you feel that way, you're gonna have a funky, weird relationship. So if you really want a funky, weird relationship with all kinds of chaos and weird crud happening, by all means, go for it. I mean, okay. So I'm gonna go to someone different here. I feel really bad for this guy, but he's doing better, I think. So someone else I know. Uh, Actually, I'm gonna maybe make this more of a general train of thought. Um, since I teach music lessons and I haven't been really doing that in person recently, thinking about all these different things a bit more, kind of taking a step back and looking at it all from a distance in a way. Because it's hard to do that when you're actually involved with the whatever. That's any kind of relationship. I think it's great to take a step back sometimes, but um, there are folks I've known that are very, very kind people, but are very, I'm trying to think of the word here. Because this one family I know, they remind me of some other folks I've taught lessons to their kids. Um, this one family is very different. Also, they're very different from the really uptight, critical, judgmental LDS Christian type. And there's people that are like that. I've readily mentioned that in my church, as well as other Christian faiths, as well as other faiths that are not, whatever. Um, whatever. I mean, I'm very familiar with the judgmental types of folks. Um, but these folks are not that way. And it's easy to say, oh, in the judgmental case, all the people I'm thinking of that are judgmental and religious, they must be really conservative. And you're probably right. They're probably they probably lean that way. And the folks that are so accepting and they're so relaxed and quirky and they've got to be more liberal, right? I know that's what you're thinking. I know that's what you're thinking on some level. Oh, but what about the Southern good old boys? They're more laid back. They can't be all that judgmental and stuff. Well, here's also, as a side note, there's the fallacy of thinking in terms of these groups and stuff. Yes, there are big groups of people, segments of people that do tend to have similar trains of thought about things. But there's all kinds of different personalities. It's easy to have the stereotype of the really, well, anyway, stereotypes abound about different faiths and things and religions or whatever. But these folks regardless of whatever, I have never talked to them about politics. You just sense some things. So I've never talked to them about politics. I don't know their politics in particular, but of course not. But they're so. This family is so relaxed. I mean, they're so accepting. It's very easy to feel like you're not being judged in this family, around this family. And I love teaching their boy. And there was another family I knew where I never knew that the two ladies that were always there were lesbian. I didn't know that I never knew it. But they were so awesome. And they knew that I was a nice teacher, nice guy, so they knew they were okay with telling me that they were lesbian. I was like, oh, cool. I mean, I never knew it, but they probably would have been. They probably would have. This other family I knew quite a while back, teaching their boy. They probably would have been a lot more standoffish or less friendly if they sensed that I was more critical of them being lesbian or whatever. And yeah, but I don't know. Funny thing is, this other family I knew a while back, I think they were from Utah or something, and so they probably also, had to deal with that whole can of worms. So, so I know the feeling of being around people that are very accepting. Very accepting. I know that feeling. I don't just mean accepting in a verbal way or in a diplomatic way, which is diplomatic is good. Diplomatic is good because they're trying to smooth things over and stuff. But I don't just mean verbal. I mean, honestly, you feel like they are not out to get you. I know that feeling, and whether that's coming from a very principled person or just someone who's at least somebody that is somewhat respectable kind of person. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe not quite George Washington level, right? Not quite. I don't know. I don't want to get into that, but and you guys know the feeling when you're around somebody who's just is a really unpleasant feeling you have. And I would, if you guys don't feel, if you don't have that feeling, if you're not sure if you can trust your feelings, or if you're not sure, you can't really sense what's going on with another person, definitely this is something that you can talk to me about. Ask me some questions. I definitely have some things to mention. And, there are people that are involved with some very dark stuff, which might be otherwise fairly okay kinds of folks, that they're not cruel or anything, but the darker the things that their person is involved in, it will affect their character. Um, yeah, yeah. People that get involved in witchcraft, for instance, over time, in my estimation, I haven't known too many people, and there's the whole question about how it's Wiccan, whatever. And I don't want to get into that stuff. But by witchcraft, I mean you're talking about people that there's all kinds of stuff. Okay. It's anybody that puts their the well-being of their life, or their I guess you could say spiritual compass. Anybody that puts a spiritual compass in a way, in a place or in a direction that is not it's easy to just say God at this point, but I mean, it's so hard to answer this because there's so many different kinds of ways of looking at witchcraft. But it's just stuff that doesn't involve morality and sacrifice and character building, and if all you're doing is rituals and stuff involving incense or crystals or numbers or tarot cards or whatever it is, if it's just that kind of stuff, and you're basing the well-being of your soul, your whole life on this stuff, that's what I term to be witchcraft. And anybody who gets involved in that kind of stuff on a very deep level, they might be otherwise very pleasant, great person, but that kind of stuff is going to start to have a negative impact on their life. I've only seen that a little bit. But people get depressed about so many things, and this is one of the things that they get depressed about. I've never known anybody that's done any spells about this stuff. But because I know that stuff exists, I've seen it on the web, I know it's out there. I just immediately sense when I've seen that stuff, this is bad stuff. This is not good. This is not good at all. It's very bad mojo. I mean, and you don't even have to be religious to sense that stuff. I mean, it just logically, just in terms of, if we're looking at this from an atheistic standpoint, there's a way to just develop your character that doesn't involve this stuff. Some people call it hocus pocus. But because you can't, if you think about the possibility of demons existing, just the possibility that might exist, you're not 100%. You're not 100% saying. This is a very tricky. I'm trying to think of how to word this. There are some people that just don't believe in demons. I say I don't believe in demons or I don't believe in Satan, but it's impossible in a way to really say that, because how can you know they're real or not? It's the same deal with God, same deal with angels. It's just that the thing about this world and this whole train of thought is it's probably easier to sense the presence of evil spirits when talking about this stuff than it is to sense the presence of really good spirits or angels. Um, this world right now is dominated by evil. There will be a point in time when it's no longer the case. It's what's good, where good is what is in charge. But right now, it's for whatever reason it's evil, and you can sense it. You can sense it in the atmosphere, in the air, in the cultural climate, in the way people act. So many people. I can expect in Washington, where I live, that more than half people I interact with, to whatever extent we can interact with people, at least after the coronavirus, right? But more than half of the people are going to be having issues, but not just issues that we all experience as humans. People, more than half of people are going to be in trouble. Or they're, how can I put this? The darkness in people's lives, they hide it, and more than half the people I interact with are going to have some dark stuff going on. I can expect that. And then a good chunk of the other folks are going to be struggling, but doing okay, right? Some good things, some not so good things, and just a tiny fraction of people are really thriving. And I don't mean thriving in a worldly sense or financial sense. I mean thriving spiritually and emotionally, that sort of thing. That's usually how it is. You become kind of aware of this stuff over time, but sometimes you can see. For a lot of us, I guess you can sense the presence of angels when you are in the hospital and you see someone come back to life, or come back to awakening from a coma. It's a very amazing experience in a loved one or something like that. That's easy. It's easy to say angels are near, and I'm sure they are. I know they are. Or, deceased relatives and stuff. That person, but or you might have. I think was it One Life to Live or something. No, it wasn't a soap opera, but there are certain shows on TV that have been very like Seventh Heaven or something. I don't mean to talk about the cheesy stuff, but there are certain movies like Benji that are very heartwarming and wholesome and that sort of thing, where you can feel more like you're in heaven for a bit. And if you, how can I put this? Anyway, getting back to socializing, this whole arena of understanding other people, I kind of went on a lot of tangents there, but this whole arena of understanding other people and good and evil and angels and demons and sensing things about people, these are very real things, even though they're very intangible. And another way of looking at it is another avenue to understanding God and the devil better, and angels and demons better, and this whole invisible thing, right? That many people mock, like Bill Mayer. I know, and George Carlin a little bit, not as much as Bill Mayer, but but the way to understand the unseen world, right? One of the best ways to do that, I think, is socializing, is learning how to trust your gut about different kinds of people and what they're like. And when you're around someone and you're talking to them, you say, "Oh, I like that guy," or "I like that girl," whatever. And you ask the question, why do I like them? There's a lot of reasons, but a lot of times it comes out to be, oh, their character. It's their character. It's what kind of person they are, what they think about, what they value. their whole, you know, yeah, that, yeah. But you want to say, it's so easy to say, oh, we have some things in common. Well, you know, it's a psychology thing, right? Psychology is an interesting blend of different aspects of life, but the unseen world. But at some point, you know, you're going to say, oh, there's some kind of similarity in character that we have. This other person is a similar character to me, or there's some deep, really deep things that we share. If it's something that's going to last. But this understanding other people deeply like that is one of the windows into, or one of the main windows into the world of the spiritual, good and evil, God and the devil. You can also say music is like that. For me, music is like that. But a lot of people want to make music into something purely academic or whatever. But music is another avenue. You just have to, it's a question of how you hear it, how you understand it. So I'm going to wrap up this video. I think 2 videos on the subject is probably enough for now. Sometimes it's enough for me just to understand things better. I don't always have to. I would like to be loved more. I would like to have deeper relationships. It's true, sure. But sometimes it's enough just to understand the way that people are better. Just because understanding for me brings a great degree of security and um, less wondering. I don't. I mean, we always wonder about things, but it's nice to not have to wonder as much about things when you come to a certain point in reflecting on things where you say, "Oh, I think I understand what's really going on with this person better." But you think you do. You don't know for 100%. Sometimes you can, if you're talking to that person still, you can ask questions about them and they, "Oh yeah, yep." You know, so hopefully this video's been helpful. Hopefully you guys are not doing evil stuff. Try to be good people. Try to be a good person myself. I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks. Bye.